In 2 Kings 6, we have an amazing story where Elisha and his servants, they're in a small town and they're completely surrounded by the enemy. The Arameans come and they've got chariots and soldiers, and Elisha's servant freaks out. He knows that there is no way they're going to escape. And then Elisha prays a very interesting prayer. He asks for God to open his servant's eyes. And immediately his servant sees that surrounding the enemy chariots are chariots of fire with angels, with blazing swords in their hand. Literally, Elisha has more firepower on his side than the Arameans. And what's really cool about this is that Elisha doesn't ask his servant to believe in something that's not true. Many times we as Christians think faith is believing something and maybe it's true or maybe it's not. But Elisha, his faith was founded in reality. And Elisha's servant, he only saw partial reality. He saw chariots and horses, but Elisha saw even more chariots and horses. And what's crazy is as the enemy comes and they get ready to attack the city, Elisha prays a very similar prayer. It's just a contrasting prayer. Instead of praying for spiritual insight, he prays for spiritual blindingness, and the enemy becomes blind. And Elisha comes out and he says, this isn't the place you're supposed to be. This isn't the person you're supposed to be. And in this small deception, we see the principle that people who are spiritually blind are very easily spiritually deceived. And they are led to a place of captivity. So when we try to listen to other people and maybe even follow other people, we need to be very careful that we don't follow people who are spiritually blind. Because then it's just the blind leading the blind, and they could fall into a pit and we'll fall in right after them. Well, these soldiers, they come to the capital of Israel, Samaria, where they're completely surrounded, and the king of Israel is like, yes, let's kill them. And Elisha's horrified. He's like, you think all of these spiritual miracles happened so that you could have a slaughter? No, feed them, give them a feast, and then send them home. See, this is a physical manifestation of the teaching of heaping coals on your enemy's head through acts of kindness. Many times people think heaping coals on your enemy's head is a way to torture them, but actually it's an ancient way of helping your enemy make a campfire when he's unable to. It's a way to provide safety and warmth. And so here's the enemy who came to kill Elisha. And Elisha is so spiritually adept, and he has so much spiritual insight that he understands the blindness of his enemies. And he knows the only way to help them see is to be kind. And so they feed the enemies, and the enemies become their friends. And the Bible says they leave and they don't attack Israel for a very long time. Now this story is just so many great contrasts when it comes to spiritual vision versus spiritual blindness. And the way God spoke to me this morning with my fears is he told me that when I am afraid, it's because I'm spiritually blind. And when I struggle with stress or sins, it's because I just don't quite see reality. And so this morning I was praying and I was like, yeah, what do you want me to see? And I was thinking I needed to have some insight into world events and what's in the future and maybe how should I prepare and who's good and who's bad. And what God told me this morning was, you just need to look at me. You need to see me. And so my prayer for myself and for you is that our spiritual blindness will be filled with the light of God, and we'll be able to see God as he truly is, with his character of light, his character of love. Because only when we see the chariots of fire that are surrounding us will we step into a life of fearlessness. Only when we see the true power of God's love will we be able to love our enemies. And then we'll have the peace that Elisha had when he was completely surrounded, because he knew it wasn't him who was surrounded. It was his enemies. You see, we say God's got this, but until we have our spiritual blindness taken away, until we see those chariots of fire, we won't truly believe that God's got this. So today I pray for you to have the spiritual darkness lifted so that you can see God's strength, so that you can see God's goodness, and so that you can believe that no matter what you're facing, God's got this. Please share this video with someone who might need it today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and go to grantingraves.com if you'd like to get a free copy of this devotional we're going through together. God bless.